The Laker locker room, Carlos Del Valle talking with Glenn Rice.
What was your emotional level like once the game was over? What was that like for you emotionally?
Oh man, I mean, it felt like all my energy just fell out my body. I mean, it was the greatest moment in my life, you know, in my NBA career, and I can get used to that. I can get used to that.
And in terms of this was important, obviously, a championship for you. Okay, who do you share this with most in terms of this championship?
Well, you know, definitely I got to share it with my team, man. You know, I most of all I share it with my wife. I mean, my wife has had to deal with my ups and downs all year, and you know, I know it hasn't been easy, and you know, I just thank God that we're able to get to the point we got to win an NBA championship.
That's what a lot of people expected.
You're right here. It was tough, but I tell you what, that's what it's all about. You don't want it to come easy.
And you guys did not make it easy on yourselves, did you?
We didn't make it easy on ourselves, but I tell you what, it was a great learning experience for us, and I hope next year we can do it much better than we did this year.
I like when you say I hope next year, because obviously you're thinking to yourself you'd like to be back here.
I would love to be back. You know, I'm telling everybody that, you know, you get one ring and then you get greedy. I'm a greedy person.
Let's get greedy, everybody, right?
Absolutely.
Now, that's an interesting point. Will Glenn Rice be back or not? That is something that will be determined in this offseason. Look who's here. John Sell. You got the paper. You ran out to the newsstand.
I ran out to the newsstand because that's my job. No job too big, no job too small.
What are you? You were mentioning on the national telecast, you're the good luck charm. You show up and they win.
I am the man that's supposed to get this thing going. I think they should re-sign me for at least 3 more championships. I mean, years. What was I thinking? And you know what, Fred? You've been having me on live, and I don't have my suit on, but I bought a really pretty suit, so I was going to switch up. But, you know, I wanted you to see, you know, the GotGame.net thing, and I wanted you to realize that you were personally invited to my championship party at the Century Club, along with everybody else that watches the best station in the world, on Wednesday night and Thursday night. Because, you know, I haven't been hanging out because I had to be a role model. But now that we won,
you don't have to be a role model.
I don't have to be a role model. I'm going to be out of my mind on Wednesday and Thursday night at Central. And everybody's invited. Come on down. Donations for the Raindrop Foundation. We just going to party, have a good time. No fighting, but just party. No drunk driving, just party. 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 We going to party on Wednesday. Okay.
John, I think that was just marvelous. And obviously you're overcome with emotion about this victory.
Yeah, and all right, I'll calm down now. Well, you know, I really feel these guys did what was important. Look at the crowd outside. I'm so happy that's not my van. I'm so happy that they're at this point. That right there, when they showed that in the middle of the game, everyone outside going crazy, we lost our mind.
What about this, John? This is the celebration. They're rocking that car, and it's happening live.
Yeah,
People have to celebrate responsibly.
They do, but you know what? Everyone has survival insurance. They can take care of that. And that's what happened at championship. It took 12 years to get it here. They calmed themselves down. They're just rocking it. Nothing really happened to the car. No fights outside because everybody is wearing purple and gold. We'll be all right. This is the way it's supposed to be in a championship. There's nothing new. And remember, if we were in Europe and this happened, there'd be about 6 dead Italian guys. No dead people today. So we're okay.
John, all right, man. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Hey, check me out, Fred. Thank you very much for coming. Okay? I didn't stick my tongue in your ear. All right.
And I'm very fortunate for that. Thank you, John. Patrick Healy with the fans in orange. Hey, Patrick, come on in.
Glad the crew here at Orange Sporting Goods in the city of Orange would like to submit this as an example of responsible celebrating. We have a few banners here we want to see. We have our own Kobe Bryant of the next generation here. Judging from this level of pandemonium, you would think that the Orange High School Panthers had just won the Century League Championship. A lot of Orange High graduates in this group here at the sporting goods store. They sure love their Lakers, and I would try to ask them about the highlights of the game, but as you can see, they're just content to make a lot of noise tonight. So that's the story from Orange Sporting Goods in the city of Orange. Let's go back to Staples Center.
Patrick, thanks very much. Stay safe down there. We heard Kobe Bryant in the interview room a few moments ago. Carlos Del Valle talked with Kobe in the locker room. Let's listen in.
I got to ask you, what is this championship? I know this championship means so much to you, but who are you sharing this with, and how do you feel? Who else do you feel it belongs to?
Well, obviously my teammates, but outside of our circle, my family, my beautiful fiance for staying up late with me at night. You know, I was getting frustrated. My father for bringing me into this world, my mother for bringing me into this world. My mother actually got scared to come in the locker room, I guess. She didn't want me to wet her up with champagne. She ducked me, but I got some champagne at home.
There you go. There you go. You guys never really made it easy on yourselves in terms of, but is that what goes along with trying to win the first one?
Well, that's what defines a champion. I'd much rather have this game be the way it was, you know, us having to come back and fight from a deficit as opposed to us blowing it out, because then we have to test our championship skills and our determination.
What was that sense at the very end of the game to you? What did you feel like? I mean, obviously, I imagine it was emotionally draining.
I don't know.
Really?
I didn't know what I felt. You know, we was up on a podium. I was asking PJ, okay, what do we do now? where do we go next? I don't know what's going on, but it was just such a wonderful feeling. My whole body just felt numb.
Shaq looked so emotional after the game. He down.
What do you do next? Well, obviously, first you celebrate, and then you prepare to get married. Carlos also talked with Kobe's fiancée, Vanessa Lane.
I'm so proud of him. I knew he was going to come through, and he did it. He did it, and I knew it. I knew this was it.
Was it difficult to sit there and watch this go on?
Yeah, I cried. I cried the whole fourth quarter. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't eat. I couldn't drink anything. I was just chilling. That's it.
These guys did such a great job this year, and obviously he says he gives you a lot of credit for sort of keeping him calm and relaxed. Is that kind of a nice feeling to have from him from that angle?
Yeah, it is, but in a way I don't feel I deserve any credit because it's all through him. And I'm so proud of him, and that just the way he pulls through things, and just how he's so independent, and just how he has so much confidence and doesn't need anybody in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm really, really proud of him.
And you guys have gone through so much yourselves in terms of dealing with us, obviously, and dealing with just getting engaged and so on and so forth. So the culmination of this, where you, I know, we can't help it, but the culmination of it all now is that he's an NBA champion and you're about to be married to one. What do you think about that?
Of course, I think it's fabulous. I mean, that's an easy question, you know, easy answer. It's great.
There you go, Kobe's fiancée, Vanessa Lane. Now let's go outside to Conan Nolan. What's going on outside of Staples, Conan?
Hi, Fred. Yes, well, this is the happening area between Georgia and Figueroa on 11th, as you've been mentioning. Now, this is where there were going to be problems. So far, it's been a very loud celebration. There have been some bottles thrown, but for the most part, things are under control. These folks in blue and gold, purple and gold, very excited here. Now, this is the area where a lot of the celebrities have been pulling out. Bob Petty mentioned earlier that there is one explorer that came out. It might have had a recognizable star because the crowd converged on top of it. People jumping on top of that wagon. LAPD came in and were able to make a way for these cars to make their way off Georgia Street onto 11th and onto the Harbor Freeway. As you can see, though, there are lots of folks who are still hanging around. This is just too much for them to let go. Let's take another look back at our camera down here live. These are folks, there they are. They want to be on TV. Here they get a chance to be on television. These folks, many of them were among the crowd of about 5,000 people who were outside at the Jumbotron here. This part of the street blocked off so the people could watch the game and be part of the ambiance. They were the first ones, of course, to celebrate in the street, and they've been celebrating ever since. But most of the crowd from well, there we have a problem. Now, that I believe, Bob Petty will tell us, that I believe is over on the north side of Staples, over off Figueroa. But that has been the exception. Most of the crowd has been orderly, loud but orderly. LAPD, a very strong police presence, and for the most part, it appears, at least from our vantage point, that things are going well. Again, there's quite a bit of pandemonium and commotion and noise out here, but so far, with the exception of the picture that you're looking at right now, at least on this end, things seem to be under control. Fred, back to you.
Conan, thanks so very much. Phil Jackson, capturing his 7th NBA title, speaking now to the media. Here is the Laker coach.
And from that part, I was very grateful of these guys. The esprit de corps was just wonderful with this team.
Phil, Jerry Buss said earlier tonight that he really didn't think, when he looked back to the very beginning of your hiring, that in 1 year you could really, do it and get to this point. When you took the job, did you think at that point that it was unreasonable to think that you would be sitting in this situation here this evening?
Happens that causes everyone to run. I just about got pushed up against a fence down here by a good 200 or 300 people. Now, right now, the LAPD, as you know, as Rod said, is in TAC alert. They were planning to let everyone party and have their way. That plan is off. Now they're trying to keep the peace. They're trying to stop the violence down here. And it's really a sad thing because I've got to tell you, from being in the middle of this crowd, 90%, 95% of the people here are here as LA Laker fans. They're here to party. There's about a 10% factor that came down here just to see what they could get away with. And you can see what that is. You can see what they're getting away with. We'll be back later in the newscast with more. Oh, look at this now. Hold on.
Well, you know, as you pointed out, most of these people are responsible, but there's a few idiots like this guy that broke the window in every crowd. And well, one thing they don't remember is in every situation, you know, there are videos taken by every television station in town. This is evidence. Many of these people may see themselves in an indefensible position in a courtroom, and it would suit them right.
John, without a doubt, and you know, not only what's happening here to the LAPD car, but Bill, go ahead and pan left again. Bill, go over to the fire, and you can see that this fire, I mean, we're talking about a car that's on fire that's only a good 10 or 12 feet from the Staples Center. So there's certainly a danger not only to people out here, but a danger to the building itself and to catching other material on fire.
Jeff, can you see any police officers nearby?
You know what, Christine, actually, I can't. We're looking across the street right now. I believe the LAPD has moved into a containment situation where rather than come in, they're trying to actually back out and help and let everyone calm down.
Well, if you look at the overview, Jeff, what you have is a few people who are celebrating a little bit out of control here. There is a little bit of property damage. Nobody is in danger at this point. So the LAPD, thinking wisdom, the better part of valor, is going to stand by, I assume, until it takes a turn for the worse, because, as Raj pointed out before, once they go in, sometimes that's a catalyst and not always a good one.
Well, and John, I also can tell you that they have their equestrian unit out here. The plan was, according to one sergeant I spoke to bring that equestrian unit in if it was necessary. So rather than a standby, I've got to believe they are assembling and they are going to come in.
Rod Burns, hey, they just set that police car on fire. John Beard.
Yes,
John
right.
Beard, Christine, there you can see it, that black and white shop 689. That's from Central Division. See the 01 on the tail deck? That was parked out in front of the Staples Center. They broke into it. Now they have set it on fire. You can see these thugs are trying to just cause as much damage as possible. John, you pointed out that they have to, or they should remember that there's a lot of videotaping going on. We've seen a number of individuals that must have come prepared for this because they have masks and they're covering their faces, trying to obscure what they look like. But here you see this black and white on 11th Street. Somebody has set it on fire, and this is just one of two black and whites that are being trashed. Meanwhile, as we pull out, you'll see that other SUV completely destroyed, completely engulfed in flames. And there is also a television news van down in that mix. All that black heavy smoke that you see there, as Jeff Michaels pointed out, that's only a sidewalk's width from the Staples Center itself. As far as the police, as we tilt down, there's the motor officers there. Out in front of them is a skirmish line of police officers, and then those are the motor officers behind them. There'll be other units, and they have yet to move in to start dispersing this crowd to the west. The crowd is substantially smaller than it was. Kevin, go ahead and tilt back up to the west there. It's substantially smaller than it was. There you can see it there. That is to the west, and they keep moving slowly to the west.
Rod, being a retired police officer yourself, you know the game plan with an incident like this. Police have to know with some kind of celebration, as we've seen in so many other cities, that some fans, a small amount of them, but some fans do get just out of control.
Well, you know, Christine, we were very proud in Los Angeles that we usually celebrated championships with in a celebratory fashion. We didn't destroy property and certainly trash police cars and private vehicles. I think that reputation is something in the past now, as we've seen these people going about destroying that police car. What the police officers have to decide is if they intervene at this point, if they start clearing this area and dispersing this crowd, will they aggravate the problem? Will they spread the destruction beyond the confined area that it is in now? So that's one thing that has to go into the plan. There was a tactical plan in place. They were in place last night in case the Lakers won. Central Rural citywide TAC alert. And that just simply means that the officers don't do routine police work, and they start drawing extra officers from divisions throughout the city into the downtown area. And then when they have a sufficient number of officers that they feel that they can not only contain the group, but also stop any destruction that may be going on away from the Staples Center, then they'll move in and start dispersing. Okay, now they're starting to move in.
Moving in.
All right, you're moving in. They have their safety gear. You see they have their batons out, their helmets on. What they're doing, dispersing the crowd away from the police car. It's a little disorganized. Normally what we would see is something a little more disciplined, but the officers, what they're trying to do is just move that crowd along at this point.
Well, you know, this kind of violent sports demonstration is something we see more and more of, and it's not just endemic to Los Angeles, of course. We saw it in Chicago. We even saw it up in Montreal, of all places. So, for some reason, people seem to get a little nuts sometimes, and as always, it's usually just a handful of bad apples that are spoiling the party for everybody.
John, there were thousands of people outside that Staples Center watching the game on the big screen outside, very well behaved, no problems whatsoever. And then after the game, that's when the fire started, that's when the crowd started acting out. And it's a typical mob psychology. People start acting out and people start joining in. And if one person throws a rock or bottle, everybody seems to start throwing rocks or bottles. So you're right, and in fact, we were talking about this just before the show, that Los Angeles always enjoyed a reputation where we didn't see this kind of violence when we had a championship. But now I think that that's something in the past.
Perhaps a thought of the times. Rod, afterwards, when police relook at this issue, relook at this trouble down here, they'll have videotape that they can take and freeze the video and move in and take close-up shots of people. Will they do something like that?
Oh, absolutely, Christine. In fact, I would be surprised if they're preparing the subpoenas for all the news tape right now as we speak. Pictures like you're seeing live from Skyfox, other pictures on the ground, as well as a lot of people with handy cams and home video recorders are out there as well. And those people will turn that tape over to the police. That might even be a better picture.
Hold on, let's go to Jeff Michael on the ground. Jeff?
All right, the LAPD right now is clearing everybody off the sidewalk. Just had to hold up the press pass so they didn't move me over the fence. You can tell because the fire engine just came in. They finally decided they weren't going to take any more, and they moved everybody out. Tear gas guns were brought out. It was hard to tell whether they actually fired any tear gas rounds, whether they needed to, but everyone moved quickly and with certainty. These LAPD officers have decided at this point that the party is over, and they have taken control of 11th Street. The LA Fire Department, right in front of me here, in two places, one in the car, two, the LAPD unit that caught fire after being completely, excuse me, completely trashed by the rioters out here.
Roger,
go ahead.
But did you say, Jeff, that there was tear gas being used?
I said that one of the platoons that was out here brought out tear gas guns. I did not hear them being fired.
That's just smoke from the burning vehicles there.
It was, yeah, right now you can't really distinguish between this LAPD car that's on fire behind me and the tear gas. And the wind is actually blowing toward the east. So it's difficult for us to tell whether they actually had to use that tear gas. But now down here on 11th Street, except for a couple of guys like this, I can tell you that it is pretty much cleared. They have moved everyone behind the fence. This fence, by the way, Bill, pan down, tilt down if you can. I don't know if my cameraman can hear me. This fence was actually here to protect all of the media trucks, to protect all of the live vans. Well, that's where the LAPD has chased everybody into where we're trying to do our business. And that's certainly not a very, very safe situation for us.
Well, you know, Rod, it's one of those political decisions where people watch this kind of a thing, and one group will call the LAPD up and says, why do you let this go on? Why don't you get in there and stop it? And then when it happens and they have to take action, somebody says, well, why did you go in and force these people into a bad situation? You can't win.
No, John, the police always seem to be between a rock and a hard spot in a situation like this. You correctly pointed out that if they do allow the people to celebrate, all right, so you're going to have a little bit of acting out, maybe a small fire here or there. That's not something you should overreact to. On the other hand, when the destruction and the violence gets to this particular point, the people start wondering, well, why aren't the police doing more than they could? As I pointed out, that one of the difficult decisions in dispersing a crowd like this is now you have them contained, but before you disperse them, you have them contained. Now you have them dispersed, and the destruction is going well beyond the area immediately surrounding the Staples Center. Some of the things that the LAPD has available to them besides tear gas, they have sting ball grenades, which basically is something that they'll throw out on the ground. When it explodes, a bunch of hard rubber pellets come out, and it hits the ankles, feet, and shin, and it's very painful. They also have pepper balls, pepper spray, as well as the rubber bullets. And if they tell you to move and they use those, you will feel it. That's the corner of Olympic, and it's the first street, first major, just west of the Staples Center. You can see they started another fire there, right where those media trucks are.
You can see, as Jeff Michaels pointed out, that's the area where all the minivans are, and the news crews are just inside that fence there.
Yeah, and the police, not real in evidence here. What they'll be doing at this point is organizing. There's that van that was trashed. television van, you can see that the micro antenna
There you
has
see
been
police
pushed out.
moving in there.
Okay, now this here you have the horse units, and you have a skirmish line. Behind them you have officers as part of the mobile field force, and what they will do is they will just, again, continue to sweep the street. This would be northbound on that first major street just to the west of the Staples Center.
Well, they need to get close to those news vehicles because that fire, you can see people adding fuel to the fire, throwing things like somebody threw an orange cone. You can see them throwing paper trying to fuel that fire, which is very close to those news vehicles.
Yeah, and as you can see here, the police continue to move, ordering the people off the sidewalks. Unfortunately, what they're doing is they're ordering them into the parking lot. There's Jeff Michael that you see there. They're ordering them into the parking lot where all the media trucks are. But on the other hand, there is the, looks like the primary field force with the horse units, and they're relatively close by. There you can see the officers starting to line up, and what they'll be doing is they're just going to sweep the street to the west, and then they'll move through that parking lot and order everybody who doesn't have a press pass out of the area.
So this is kind of a block-by-block situation, I guess.
It is indeed, John, and at the same time, what's happening is Communications Division is receiving all kinds of phone calls from crowd that has dispersed 1, 2, 3 blocks away from the Staples Center, and that'll be left up to the other officers in the mobile field force to respond to those calls, and at the same time try and keep an idea where the main body of the crowd, the main troublemakers are.
Well, what we don't see is, at least in our shots, are police making arrests. What you do see is police trying to get people to go home, to break up the crowd, to get them going away from the Staples Center and get them out of there.
That's true, Christine. What they will try to do is be very judicious in the number of people they take into custody, because what that does has a tendency to really clog up the system, as well as tie up your officers. So unless it's a really egregious act, perhaps a felony. There you see officers. Those are shotguns with beanbag rounds in them. They come out at a very high velocity. You get hit in the chest with that, it will knock the wind out of you. Shotguns with a non-lethal beanbag round. Behind him, the officer that you see in that tactical vest, he has those pepper spray rounds or pepper ball rounds, as well as sting ball grenades.
Well, at least that fire has died down. That fire was starting to grow there for a few minutes, and now it's died down, so that is good news.
They also are able to bring in a lot more fire units at this point because there's sufficient officers to be able to protect the firefighters, let them do their job. Most of those pumper trucks that you see there carry 500 gallons of water, so that's plenty of water to put out vehicle fires or small rubbish fires.
Yeah, it's one of those situations, Rod, where if it's just burning in a parking lot, it's not really a threat to anything else, and the firefighters aren't going to go in a situation like this without police security.
They can't, John, because for whatever reason, mobs like this have a tendency to attack anybody in a uniform, and that includes a firefighter that's trying to stop destruction of private property. It just doesn't make any sense. However, there are sufficient officers here. It looks like they're getting organized now. They're sweeping to the east there on 11th Street with the horses. Behind them you have officers that would be responsible for making arrests. And at the same time, it looks like they'll be doing the same thing on Georgia Street there, sweeping to the north as well.
Well, let's go back down to Jeff. Jeff, to the left there, the area that they're sweeping in, or is there still a crowd down in that area, or is it pretty much open now?
Well, John, I can tell you right now that we have even moved behind the fence at this point. The LAPD is saying that, they need our help to back off a little bit. The horses are right in front of us. They're going to sweep to the east. Tear gas guns are out, so far not being used. To the east of me, you can see the motor units coming in. And as I said earlier, all of the guys who are causing the problems have actually come on our side of the fence and are now in the media area. Most of them are being really cool. Most of them are being peaceful. But there's that small element that picks up a steel sign and decides to throw it. There's that small element that's had way too much to drink tonight, has done the wrong kind of partying, and those are the people the LAPD are trying to deal with. As you see, Bill just panned over to the horses. They're moving in very slowly.
Jeff,
slowly.
Can you show us the media area where you're at? We see where the police are. Can you give us a shot from the ground?
Sure, Bill, there you go. You can see the satellite trucks. You can see the people right up against the fence. And you can see rocks, well, you can't see, but we can hear rocks being thrown from our side of the fence, actually out onto 11th Street. Most people out here, not violent. I'd say a good 30 to 50 people out here have decided they want to join the wrong party, and they want to cause problems. I've heard vans in our compound being hit, being rocked, and now people who are blaming the media for all of this, saying that that it's the cameras that shouldn't be here. And they're the people who are actually causing the violence.
We have one of our cameramen, I think, was roughed up earlier just outside the Staples Center before this even got to this level. So, you know, just to recap it, I mean, obviously the Lakers won a championship tonight. The LAPD was on alert ahead of time just in case that things got out of control. For the most part, it hasn't been a dangerous situation. There have been a few people. There's been an SUV that has been rocked and torched. There's been one police vehicle that has been broken, and I'm not sure if that was set on fire or not. Maybe a couple of other vehicles here and there. There were some fires set outside the Staples Center in the parking lot, fueled by everything from traffic cones to clothing, whatever they could throw in there, and people danced around it. We don't know. We don't have any word so far on any injuries. We don't believe there's anything substantial there, but it was a volatile situation and still is, and that's why police are clearing the street.
Well, still troublesome to police. You see the people where Jeff Michael was standing who are being nonviolent, but they just won't go home. We saw this one shot of the same guy over and over who just isn't leaving.
That's right. That's, in fact, can you hear me?
Yes.
That's exactly what's happening here, and I've got to tell you from the get-go, the LAPD, although prepared for this, did not expect this. The LAPD, I talked to them as they were moving in, platoon by platoon, and they said, the crowd looks good, we have people in the crowd, they're collecting intelligence, everything looks fine, we expect there will be some partying, they'll get it out of their systems, and they'll go home, or we'll peacefully move them along. The LAPD certainly did not expect this to happen, but they, as you can see, were prepared for it.
Well, you know, I kept hearing LA fans are different from other cities. LA fans are different. LA fans won't have problems, won't cause problems. That was kind of the rumor around town.
Well, I don't know how LA fans are different. They really had an opportunity to be different. We were in the center of this crowd when the final seconds rolled off the clock. We were in the center of this crowd when Kobe Bryant shot that free throw and everybody went wild. But the way they went wild was by shooting champagne into the air, maybe throwing some...
Jeff, let me interrupt for a second. Rod, what's going on down here in the center of this street?
John, the crowd has surrounded that black car. It just now got out. People were jumping on top of the car, on the hood of the car, also on the top of the car. They had completely surrounded it. It looks to be about 50 to 60 people in the intersection of Pico and Georgia. This would be to the north and to the just to the west of the Staples Center. The crowd has blocked that intersection. As you can see, for some reason, they keep surrounding that particular car. Why? We just don't know. But the poor driver in the car just must be terrified, as are other drivers here. It's a bit of a gridlock because not only the people in the street, but also the traffic and the officers trying to move around. So what's going on there, we're just not sure. But you can see that car is desperately trying to get out of there, trying to do anything it can. In fact, it does look like it's made it out. So for whatever reason, the crowd surrounded that particular car. They were jumping on it, trying to open it.
Rod, is this through traffic or people still trying to leave the Staples Center?
Well, this is traffic outside the Staples Center. Now, I don't know if these are people that came out of the Staples Center or out of the surrounding parking lots, or if it was just through traffic there on Pico, right at Georgia Street. I just don't know. But this is the main body of people that we saw that were surrounding that police car that was set on fire, the television news van that was trashed, and also that SUV that was set on fire. This is the crowd that the police have dispersed to the north and to the west of the Staples Center itself.
There they are.
There they are, and they're doing the same thing. They seem to be surrounding these particular cars and shaking them, jumping up on top of them. So the police are about a block away at this point.
Here you see right now, this is the news media area. You can see all the live trucks there set up to do their live shots, and police now moving into that fenced-off area, getting the people away from those vehicles.
Well, I think they probably figured out some of the troublemakers went into that lot, as Jeff pointed out, and so they're going through. If you don't have a press pass, you're going to get bounced out of there now. Is that pretty much the case, Jeff?
Yeah, John, that's exactly what's happening. I'm walking around just off camera shot because the LAPD just came into the compound and moved extremely swiftly. They walked right between, or ran right between the fence and the microvans here, and they, oh, now I'm behind my photographer, there we go. Walked right between the microvans, judiciously using those batons to move people along, not striking anyone, but certainly pushing them along and telling them to get out of the media area. They didn't give them any time. They felt that they had given them enough time already.
I know what you mean about judiciously.
Yeah, I'm looking right now. I'm walking, in fact. I hope my microphone stays within transmission shot. There is a car fire, it looks like, from inside this parking lot, inside this media compound. I can't really get a good look at it.
No, we can't see it too well from that shot.
Yeah. I've just climbed up on somebody's ladder here, and it looks like it's a car that's on fire, and people just walking around. I think looking for a way out. There's fencing around 90%, maybe 95% of this parking lot.
All right, Jeff, let us go up to Rod Burnson, who can give us a look at that fire you're talking about.
That
Rod?
just looks like a parking lot fire there. We saw. Go ahead, Rod.
Yeah, John, it does look like some rubbish. Kevin, pan to the right here. It does look like a bit of rubbish set on fire in the driveway there off of Georgia Street in the media parking lot. As we pull out and pan back to the left, this is the area where Jeff Michaels is, and you can see the police are moving through and telling people to disperse. As Jeff pointed out, they'll ask once, and then you're going to get pushed with that baton. Make it perfectly clear that it's time for you to leave this particular area. And if they run into anybody that doesn't want to do that, that person is going to find himself in a pair of plastic handcuffs on his way to jail. Part of the difficulty the officers have is the crowd is so widely dispersed now that there's no coordinated effort by the officers. What they try to do is have these skirmish lines that are officer to officer as they do, and in that way the crowd can't circle back around behind them and start all over again. So the officers are doing a pretty good job of clearing the media parking lot there. Again, you see these hardcore fans that just refuse to leave. The police have said, it's time for you to go home, it's time for you to get out of the area, and they're not going to do it. They're just going to hang as long as they possibly can. Kevin, let's pan back to the right and see where that other body of crowd was. At Pico and Georgia's, where we saw them rocking some cars and jumping on vehicles. That looks like the crowd. There's a little bit of crowd. Yeah, there they are at the top and bottom of your screen there, diagonally across the intersection. It does look like they've cleared the intersection. They set another fire there using those rubber cones. Traffic is pretty much trapped until the officers can get up there and close down eastbound Pico and westbound Pico to traffic. Also, they need to be shutting off Georgia Street there, both north and southbound as well. That should be something they're doing fairly quickly.
Ross, stand by for a second here, because you can see that there are a lot of people who can't get out of the area. There are also a lot of cars that are still unattended, which makes me think there may be some people still trapped inside the Staples Center, or at least waiting in there until the situation calms down. We have on the phone Kyle Madden, who's with security at the Staples Center. Mr. Madden, is that the case? Do you have people still waiting inside?
Pushing on that car.
I'm sorry?
Yes, I'm asking, it's John Beard here along with Christine Devine. Do you still have people inside who just are waiting for things to clear up before they leave?
We have people who are relaxing down here at the Fox Sports Skybox, absolutely.
How about the Staples Center in general? How many people still left inside?
I couldn't give you exact numbers, but we're all just relaxing, waiting for the traffic to clear out.
Do you feel concerned about what's going on outside?
Well, just as all things that happen in the world, you're concerned, absolutely, but we're very calm and relaxed, and we're not concerned for our safety at all.
Well, Rod, let's go back to you for a second. It was one of those situations earlier. There was a strange situation where we saw a limousine. It seemed like police were going down the street. Let's go back to Jeff Michael for a second. Jeff?
Yeah, very quickly, John. We've moved our cable into the parking lot. You can see they're now sweeping north. They've gone through this fire area, which wasn't a car fire, but it was a bonfire. And members both of Central Division, as well as I've noticed a couple of D Platoon members, some SWAT members in here, have now just uniformly pushed people north and are trying to push them out of the parking lot. They already pushed them west. Now they're pushing them north. They're clearing people out from all of these cars. The media trucks are right over here. All right, so this is where everybody was. This is where the problem was just about, I'd say, 5 minutes ago. And then I mentioned to you, everyone came in. They started pushing a lot of these people who were causing the violence north. And really, it was a small number of people, but it was enough to cause a real problem out here. And now it looks like the parking lot is pretty much cleared. I've got to tell you, this is an extremely coordinated effort by the LAPD.
Well, Jeff, we can see where that crowd went. We have a live shot overhead. Rod was telling us that's the Pico and Georgia area. That's an area that gets congested anyway with people just leaving the Staples Center. You get a crowd out there, cars cannot get through.
No, John and Christine, we're seeing people jump up on the cars. We've seen some of the car doors being ripped open. Again, this is a Pico just east of Georgia Street. This is that hardcore crowd that we saw over in front of the Staples Center that was dispersed to the north. And people are trapped. People are having their cars jumped on. And in some cases, we saw the doors being ripped open. Now, what's happening after that, it's obviously a little difficult for us to see. There's a flame right there, so we're going to have to see what happens to that. We've seen Molotov cocktails. We've seen flare guns actually being fired into the air. That's one of two fires that I see being lit off. Now, what they're going to do is a little difficult to see at this point. This is would be the parking lot directly north of the Staples Center on Pico, between Figueroa and Georgia Street in the downtown area.
Well, it's a dangerous situation, and if you're in a car and you see you're in what looks like a mob to you and you're trying to get out, you're really in a no-win situation. You try and just stay calm and go inch by inch, but we referred to that limo earlier. It was people were jumping on a limo, jumping up and down on it. It was all out there in the street by itself. Finally, the driver kind of floored it and left, and nobody got in his way at that point, but sometimes you do what you can, I guess, but it's dangerous.
Yeah, John, the difficulty is you try to get yourself out of that situation, you anger the mob, and then they do attack you. So it's obviously a very difficult position to be in. I mean, you don't want to floor it and run down a bunch of people, but on the other hand, that can be awfully frightening to be surrounded by a drunken mob or a mob like this, especially when you see fires being lit off, your cars being jumped on, doors are being pulled open.
From my eye, have been responsible for starting and inciting most of these things. The vast majority of the people have not.
As I see here, Bob Petty, we have more problems.
You're right, Conan. This is just south of Fig and 11th. The black and white seems to have been isolated. We don't see the officers, so they must have left the car. But you certainly can see how they destroyed this police car, ripping the door, smashing the windows, and continuing to jump up and down and destroy this vehicle anymore. Fortunately, it's not been torched, and the small fire that was burning up there at 11th and Fig seems to have been put out. Police officers not coming down again. This is just south. This is just south of Fig and 11th. We'll stay on the scene. I understand Fred is in the middle of the arena with some more information, but this is getting pretty violent out here. Fred, what do you have inside?
Well, Bob, what we have been told is that people inside the Staples Center are not being allowed to leave for the very reason you just showed us. We'll go back to you for a moment and look at the picture. But people in here are staying in here, and they're not coming out. Exactly what are you seeing, Bob, and are the police moving in at this point?
Well, what they've done, Fred, they've cleared the area to the north of the Staples Center there. So you're okay at 11th and Fig. Now, this is down at Pico and Fig, or just south of Pico and Fig. So most of the crowd that was outside watching the big screens that were several thousand in number that started the initial fires as soon as the Lakers won, they've been dispersed and moved back away to both to the east, the north, and the west, away from the Staples Center. Mounted police and officers on foot in riot gear have pushed those people back and cleared the area of the parking lots, except for those people who have a valid interest in being there to get their cars and get out of the area. Now, the latest crowd that you've seen, the only crowd that has not been dispersed that's still causing problems, are about a block south of the Staples Center here at south of Pico and Figueroa, and you can see them continuing to vandalize and destroy this police car, this black and white, this shop. So actually, we've still got no reports of any injuries. Traffic is still jammed in several streets as the crowd continues to block the easy egress of those people trying to get away from the Staples Center. Let's go back to you, Fred.
All right, thanks very much, Bob. I appreciate it. Glenn Rice is standing outside. Glenn, we're on live right now. His lovely wife, Christy. Come on, everybody's coming in now. Come on in. Let's talk to Glenn Rice quickly. He's coming in right now. Glenn, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Mrs. Rice, congratulations to you.
Thank you.
It has been quite the year for you.
It has been, and it's worth it. It's winning the NBA championship is what everybody dreams about, and it's a dream come true for myself.
I know you came here, you wanted to win a title. It has been exhilarating at times, and it's probably been a bit depressing at times. But when you put it all together now, how do you feel, and do you want to come back and play here next year?
I feel great. Like I've always told people, we win the NBA championship, it'd be like an aspirin for me, and we've won that, so I can say I've taken my aspirin, so I no longer have a headache, and I would love to be back. I really would. It was a great time.
Now, Mrs. Rice, you were quoted in the paper as well talking about the situation. How do you feel tonight about it?
Couldn't be any happier. This is what it's all about. So, yeah, it was hard. Won't lie. It was a hard thing, but it's all well worth it.
Okay, and before we let you go, who are these two, please?
This is Glenn Jr., this is Dimitri, and there's one at home we're missing, little Brianna, but we love you. Shout out to our little Bree.
Congratulations. Enjoy your evening because it's well-deserved.
Thank you very much.
All right, Glenn Rice and the family. Stay with us. Our post-game report continues from Staples right after this.
We don't see anything that's to see the police moving into this area right now, but the crowd is around this car like they were around the other one. and they're probably going to try to set it on fire.
Gary.
Okay, the cops are at Figueroa and 11th now, so they're only a block away, and they'll probably be coming in here shortly and breaking this up.
Gary, how about in the air? LAPD airships on the scene?
There are several up overhead. They're relaying information and giving direction to their people on the ground as well. But there again, I think that they're just being very, very cautious without making a big, huge advance into here. Just leaving one car to go. They don't want to stir these people up any more than they are. So it looks like they're using the same tactic they used earlier on those other vehicles that were being attacked.
We see another fire, Gary, and don't know if this is a vehicle or one of the many bonfires that have been set near the Staples Center. There have been just vicarious fires set, brush set afire in the middle of a street. So we see another one, the right-hand bottom portion of your television screen. Don't know exactly where this is. Looking at some vehicles here that just seem to be moving haphazardly along in no particular direction. So obviously there is no police presence as of yet to even direct these vehicles out of this particular area.
Okay, we see the fire up there. It's just east of Olympic up here on Olympic, it looks like. Correction, on Figueroa, I think. And it's just in the street there. Now that we're looking at the police car here, of course, they've got that fully involved now, and they're doing their thing like they did before. And we can see another little fire up the street there, but there don't appear to be many people around that fire. So this is where the concentration of people are right now, as much as it was. See guys throwing things inside there to fuel this fire.
Yeah, this is the second LAPD cruiser we've seen being set on fire, and now we've seen a second bonfire being set on one of the nearby streets. We'll try to get a look at that if we can and see just how close that is to buildings. The one set on 11th Street was
actually I see two fires up the street now. So when they let us get off of this thing, Gil, we go right up this street and we'll see two more fires up there.
Okay, Gary Langbury talking to our photographer in Skyline, but more fires breaking out in downtown LA as the crowd that initially this is where it all began earlier, right? Or is this live?
This is a live picture, and this is you know, if I didn't know any better, I'd call it a ritual of some kind. They appear to be dancing around this bonfire that they have set. We don't know what they're yelling or what they're saying, but again, this is almost reminiscent to me of many scenes on college campuses across the country where there have been celebrations and fires have been set, and they seem to be just dancing around in circles.
Pretty good-sized fire, a lot of trash being thrown in it. Of course, a lot of placards being carried, and they're throwing shirts and wood, and paper, cardboard, whatever they can, but...
One guesses they're not throwing any Laker flags into the fire since that's what they're supposed to be celebrating, but
it looks like the crowd path that had been dispersed from in front of the Staples Center, at least that part of the crowd which had been vandalizing and setting fires, has moved to another location and has started up a new one.
Well, they're throwing roadway devices to fuel this fire. And again,
traffic cones, whatever they can get their hands on. Yeah.
Gary said he has not seen the police move in yet, but of course they're making a tactical decision, and oftentimes we'll just let this die out.
LAPD is on tactical alert, put on it almost immediately after this game ended, when the first small bonfires broke out outside the Staples Center. We have seen the crowd moved away from there, but you know, there's still a lot of folks in and around downtown Los Angeles. We know about 20,000 left that ball game just about 45 minutes ago. They're still trying, many of them, to make their way on the surface streets out of downtown onto the freeway, so it has been very slow going, and this, of course, just causes more street closures, so it's not easy getting out of downtown right now.
And there are some vehicles that we just saw. They're so close to those fires. We don't even know if the Lakers players themselves have left Staples Center. Kind of think maybe not for safety precautions. But again, that is the police cruiser that we showed you moments ago, ablaze. And again, another fire that we just looked at, set in the middle of a street with people dancing around it, vehicles moving slowly near that fire.
It's about a block or two away from the Staples Center, where this all began just minutes after the Lakers championship win earlier tonight. But you can see really, Pat, the crowd is around these most recent fires much smaller than was outside the Staples Center.
All right, now we just got information. We can't confirm the whereabouts of the Lakers, but the Pacers are stuck in the Staples Center along with NBC crews. Of course, NBC.
See? And they're coming over to the parking lot. This area has been secured by police officers.
Robert, we're going to have to take
and they've been moved, but we've still got these 3 fires burning down here by Pico and Figueroa, with that one police cruiser completely burning, and the crowd still be pushing. Back to you in the studio.
Bob, we got to take a quick break. It's hard enough to leave the Staples Center when it's full, when there's no trouble, and you add the trouble to that, and boy, you've got a problem, and they did tonight. We're going to be back with more of our coverage of the Laker victory and the aftermath at Staples and in the streets surrounding in just a minute.
There's a car out there people are talking about.
This is a bold move for Cadillac.
It's the only car in its class with the executive assistance of OnStar Standard.
OnStar.
What is this boldly restyled car that's making the press take notice? It's the 2000.
This crowd elsewhere. Of course, we heard Brian Humphreys from LA City Fire say they wanted to localize the situation and not have it spread into the surrounding areas or other communities around the Staples Center itself, and keep it out of residential areas. So they've done a good job in moving this crowd around, and hopefully the same will happen here.
Well, there's no doubt.
Seems like they're rocking a car they're carrying, and I see some more smoke. It's a pretty dark picture.
Yeah, we're getting word that another vehicle may have been set on fire. Certainly police had a plan going into this. They have seen what has happened after championship events in other cities in recent years. Oh my goodness, the one in Denver went on for several hours, into the wee hours of the morning after the latest Super Bowl win. And of course you mentioned Miami a few years ago, which really was one of the more violent in recent years. But
I remember University of Michigan.
Yeah, this is not quite on the scale of that.
No.
But it is still extremely disappointing to see.
Well, even here, after some of the, I believe, soccer celebrations in some areas, I don't want to mention them by name, but they happen to be in this city or close by. We have seen cars being stopped in the middle of the street, rocked, and then the crowd eventually dispersed. Haven't noticed as many bonfires as we have at this particular time. There's a fire truck there. Was made his way over to that police cruiser, and again, Brian Humphreys explained that they know when to come in. When the LAPD tells them to come in, they will direct them to do so, and they will go about the business of knocking these fires down, which we have seen over and over again tonight, at least 4 times.
You were asking out loud a few moments ago, Pat, what about the Lakers at the Staples Center? We're getting word right now the Staples Center has been locked down, no one being allowed out, or no one going in. So presumably the Lakers, along with the Indiana Pacers players, the broadcast crews as well, workers at the Staples Center, all remaining in the Staples Center right now. Clearly, police have determined it to be just simply too dangerous to be outside. There we see firefighters trying to put this thing out, and the crowd reveling just beside them.
Just beside the firefighters. We're getting in new pictures. This is inside the Staples Center, right after the lockdown was announced. And this is apparently, well, Alan, he would know exactly where this is. Is this underneath, Alan, or where the locker rooms?
Yes, that's where the, it looks like the charter bus of the Pacers is sitting there, and you can see some family members waiting for them. Usually after this game, they would be going right to their charter and getting out of town, so you know they're anxious not to have to hang around there any more than possible. But that's down near the locker rooms. They usually come out. They drive the buses right in underneath the stadium. There's Dale Davis standing there after the loss tonight. And they would just, and you can see the television trucks down there also, they would just get on the bus and they would head out to the airport, and that'd be the end of that, and along with some of the crew members and the limos that are probably going to take the NBC people out of town as well. Those would be where they would all park underneath. So it's a safe place to put them. They don't have to go outside. And that's the reason they do that is crowd control. When the teams come in, they're not bothered, and they can park underneath the stadium down there. And I can remember at the old Forum, Magic had his parking space.
12 guys, a coaching staff, working hard all year long to achieve the same goal, and going through all types of adversity. And it wasn't an easy road. And to come out and be the last team standing, it's a great feeling.
Hey, Dale Davis was smiling there. He didn't look...
There's Rick Smits right over in the corner there. He's probably saying if I'd have made 2 or 3 more shots, we'd have had a chance to win this thing tonight. It's just an anxious moment. Probably some reporters milling around to get more quotes from them. And But they're okay down there as long as they can just ride this thing out. And as Kerry pointed out, we've seen these celebrations unfortunately after victories, which don't have a lot to do with celebrating. It just turns into some crowd sort of mayhem, and we don't know how long it might go, but they're fine where they are down there.
Yeah, well, we see these things sometimes when the team loses. So
right.
It really doesn't matter. There are elements in the crowd.
The Staples Center to tarnish any of that. You know, this is our city. We all have to live in it. Let's celebrate the right way. And, you know, there's people whose property is going to be damaged, and, you know, hopefully there's no, you know, injuries out there. But, you know, there's a lot of people that feel like they're held hostage inside here, you know, because we can't leave right now.
So that is the case. People aren't leaving.
Exactly. You know, they're not even letting anybody leave. You know, whoever's in the building right now has to stay in the building. So we want you to celebrate. We want you to enjoy yourself, but celebrate the right way. You know, be safe and enjoy yourself. You know, this is not just for the LA Lakers. This is for the whole city.
Police now are moving in a wide skirmish line. They don't have their riot gear on in terms of the shields and that, but they are certainly wearing helmets, and they have their batons out, and they're moving southbound on Figueroa. Now, there have been some sporadic reports of attempted looting. The last one we just heard was at Olympic and Albany. We heard one earlier near the Pantry restaurant. It seems as though the police are doing a fairly good job of getting to those hot spots and showing a presence. For the most part, as unruly as this crowd has been, and as emboldened as they are by each thing that they do, they tend to still run away when the police show up. As soon as they see the police officers moving towards them, they move out, and the cops are realizing this and actually
crowd south along Figueroa. The rest of the people can get out of the Staples Center.
Paul, this is a live picture of that computer store on Olympic Boulevard near Albany. As you said, there are reports that it has been looted. It's a computer store. Makes you wonder what effect, if any, this will have on the parade and the victory rally that is scheduled for Wednesday that will move through the downtown area and end up at the Staples Center. Now, as you pointed out early on, this started with small bonfires, about 6 or 7 of them outside the Staples Center. They started almost the moment the Lakers won the NBA title, and then all of a sudden that grew into, we watched some of the limos leaving the Staples Center, several fans using tree limbs and pieces of wood to smash windows, hit cars, things like that. We understand a lot of the fans are still being kept inside the Staples Center, although we saw in some of our pictures they've started trickling out.
We did, and for a while there, you know, there were, like you said, Colleen, there were 4 or 5 small fires, people jumping in and out, but other than that, it was pretty much contained, with the fire department hanging back, saying we're not going to go in until there's a threat to personal property or to person or property. The LAPD, large force, hanging back, hoping things would calm down, but then they started to get out of hand, and they moved in. They fired rubber bullets in some cases and tried to move the crowd out. Conan Nolan, I don't know what your location is right now, but I know you're out there. What's the latest from your vantage point?
I believe we're having some trouble with Conan at this point in time, but again, there are reports of looting, and this is what we're looking at right now. This is a computer store on Olympic Boulevard near Albany Street, a computer store that was apparently looted by fans who were moving in that direction. As Paul pointed out, there were several LAPD cars that were torched down there tonight, crowds anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000 people. Some of them, in fact, children outside the Staples Center watching all of this.
Have we got Bob Petty up there? Bob, are you there?
Yes, Paul, I'm here.
You got about 45 seconds to tell us you know what's going on from where you are.
This is a line of stores. Police officers now are just coming into this area. This is Olympic and Albany, where that computer store has been looted. But there are several stores there that the windows have all smashed out, and we've seen people running inside through those broken windows and coming out. Police officers came over with a helicopter, shined the light, and they scattered like rats as they left the area. Police officers now coming in.
We also assure many of your viewers are, of course, spouses of law enforcement officers, and I want to assure them that this hour we have no law enforcement officials that have received any injuries, and certainly a key element of that is the training of LA police officers in handling these types of incidents.
Of course, we have seen some attacks on civilian cars.
Well, we have, and it's very troubling, and thankfully those people were able to escape slowly and carefully without running over individuals and causing further harm, but a very troubling situation.
And enjoy the moment.
And we certainly must give credit to Caltrans, the sheriff, CHP, and others who are also working very closely behind the scenes with us to make sure that we can...
Yeah, Brian, I wanted to ask you, is this strictly an LAPD operation, or are there units from Sheriff's Department, Highway Patrol?
Well, the officials from those other allied agencies are controlling their sectors at this time.
For an NBA champion, when we had one. And, you know, L.A., we used to call ourselves the sports capital of the world, and we had to kind of back off that for a while. But let's hope with the new millennium, this will be the first of many, not only in basketball, but baseball as well. And hopefully someday we'll get an NFL team back in town, too.
That would be great. As you point out, it's been a dozen years since we've been the NBA champs. And, of course, this is a city and a team that wanted it badly. We saw Kobe Bryant tonight as he held up his ring finger and sort of...
Players and not on them.
Again,
Cameras.
I'm talking about youthful exuberance here.
But I probably shouldn't. Now, subtract that number by 1. Introducing Mitsubishi's No Excuses event. Now you can buy any new 2000 Mitsubishi, the fastest growing Japanese car company in America, with just 1.9% APR for 5 whole years. Of course, this equation only works if you can stop saying, hurry, Mitsubishi's No Excuses event won't last long. The all-new Ford Explorer Sport Track.
100. And of course, LA City Fire always doing its magnificent job in looking after the interests of the citizens of the city of Los Angeles. So we'll be getting back to you should there be any major change in the situation, but we hope that won't be necessary.
Thank you, Hal, Terry.
Thank you,
Okay,
Brian.
now I want to go to Tony Hernandez.
Indiana Pacers. Bad side of it, though, when young people in large groups gather outside, and perhaps some of them have had too much to drink, and they've taken the law into their hands tonight and are unruly, attacking cars in some instances and setting fires, and the LAPD has had to show a strong presence tonight.
Crowd is getting smaller. If you've been with us, we've been on the air since 10 o'clock, live, showing you what's happening in...
Are you today? To me, and traffic is starting to flow on some of the streets farther away from the Staples Center where gridlocked before. So hopefully we're going to see a lot
ride and
out of the area, and of course that will assist the officers greatly. This is that discipline that Jeff Michael was talking about. What the officers try to do is stay in line, act as a uniform force, walk from building to building, across the sidewalk, across the street.